welcome back to Mancinima. I hope you're all keeping very well. We've got another movie review for you this week, but before we get into that, let's go through the old routine if you don't mind. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up. That would be great, it really does help the channel out. If you are new to the channel, brand new to the channel, there's lots of variety, loads of different videos for you to watch. And if you could subscribe to the channel, that would be great. All you have to do is click the subscribe button. It's all free. Even the thumbs up is free. It doesn't cost you a penny. It just helps this channel along and helps me want to do more of these videos. And come and have a chat with me down in the comments. So I just want to say thank you to all of the new subscribers. Thank you to all of the people who have liked this video and have come and had a chat with me and regularly comment on the videos and the reviews. I'm glad you're here. I really appreciate your comments and it really does help me. Right, let's get into today's movie, which is a sequel to 2018's The Nun. It's part of the Conjuring universe, and it's called, surprisingly enough, The Nun II. So The Nun II is directed by Michael Chaves, who also directed The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which was The Conjuring 3, and he also directed The Curse of La Llorona, or La Llorona, I don't know how you pronounce that one. And obviously this is part of the Conjuring universe. The movie starts very violently with a priest inside a church. A young boy hears something. He tells his priest, his father if you like, that he hears something, and the father walks down into the middle of the church, calls out, raises up his cross, and all of a sudden he's launched up into the air and something violent happens to him. I won't tell you what happens to him because it's quite a good opener to the movie. It's a really good hook that drags you into the movie and kind of gets you invested in these characters. So we move forward and we find out that he's the first of many priests and that have been murdered around a certain area. There's like a set of photographs that they are on a table. This priest was murdered here, this priest was murdered there, and there's a pattern that's beginning to emerge, and it seems that the murders are moving towards a definite destination, which is in France, I believe. We are then brought into Sister Irene, who was in the last Nun movie. She's played by Taser Farmiga again, and she's sent out to investigate because they reckon that this is the return of Valak, and of course Valak being the nun from The Conjuring 2 and also the movie The Nun. So she's sent out to kind of investigate and put the pieces together and find out how to stop the nun, because she's the one who stopped it last time. However, she didn't quite stop it last time because the spirit of the nun escaped, the demon of the nun escaped into the worker Maurice, Jonas Bouquet. So he played the character in the last movie, and of course now he is possessed by the nun. And he's going into these buildings, and you find that he's gone to this convent school where there's this young girl that he befriends, and he seems very friendly with her. He seems like a nice guy. Everybody seems to like him and get on with him, but what they don't know is that he's got this demon living inside of him. And yeah, basically that's the plot. So the plot is the nun is once more resurrected through Maurice, and it's setting out to cause all these murders and cause chaos amongst the nun and the religious community. So what to say about The Nun II then? Well, before I talk about The Nun II, I want to give you a little bit of background on how I saw the first Nun movie. The first Nun movie I saw back in 2018, and I was invited by the Fright Fest crew. There was a bunch of us that went along. We went to see the movie in the Brompton Cemetery in London. I know it's a strange place to sit and watch a movie, but they had this big screen at the end, and we were sat in rows in front of it in the freezing cold. This is in September, but you know, once it hits a certain time at night, it does actually get very cold in those cemeteries. So we were sitting there watching the movie was broadcast at the end. However, because it's in a residential community, they had to keep the sound at a certain level, and it didn't carry. So we were all sitting there watching the visuals on the screen and getting this preview of this movie, you know, seeing what's going on, but half of us couldn't hear what was going on. And I didn't really kind of get the story. I kind of took in what was going on as I saw it from the screen, and we were kind of making our own dialogue up of what we thought they were saying. But it really was so quiet we couldn't hear what was going on. Quiet as a nun, if you like. And so yeah, I left that first screening like not really impressed. I did see it on disc a little while later, and I thought it was an okay movie. I thought it was probably the weakest of the Conjuring universe. But yeah, it was kind of okay. So I was kind of surprised that they said that they were going to make a Nun 2, because I really didn't think the movie did that well. It wasn't received that well around the world. I think most people received the original The Nun, the 2018 The Nun, as one of the weakest entries in the Conjuring universe. So I was quite surprised when they said there was going to be a Nun 2. However, yeah, we've got The Nun 2. And I'm pleased to say that it's a vast improvement upon the first film. First of all, the story's engaging. You've got that great hook at the beginning, as I said, with the priest in the church. Once you're hooked into that, and once you know where the story's going, and they laid the story out in front of you, yeah, it's very, very interesting. I thought the story was very good. I thought the characters were very good once again. I liked Taser Farmiga as Sister Irene. She's a much stronger character than she was in the first movie, and she's brought into this movie because she dealt with Valak in the last film. And of course the head priest seems to think that she's the one to take the demon out again, and he advises her to go and find this little artifact. So she's kind of on an Indiana Jones kind of quest. There's a little bit in the movie that's just kind of like Raiders of the Lost Ark, where they shoot a light through a stained glass window and it marks where in this cavern that this artifact is. So that was a little bit Raiders, I thought, which obviously me being a big indie fan, I appreciated. So yeah, you've got this kind of a detective story going on with her. You've also got a story going on with Maurice. Now he's gone off to work in France, and he's working in this local convent school, I think he's working in. And he makes a friendship with this young girl called Sophie, and her mother, and all the other children that are in the convent. And of course he is, as we saw at the end of the last Nun movie, he's actually been possessed by Valak, and he's carrying the spirit of Valak around with him. So where these murders are happening is where Maurice has been, and obviously he kind of shuts down, the demon of Valak takes over, does the murders, and then he comes back to his normal self. It's kind of like a werewolf transformation kind of thing, except for a demon transformation. So yeah, the story is actually pretty intriguing, and like I say, you've got this kind of detective plot going on, finding the artifact, getting to where the next location is going to be, and of course you've got Morris doing his thing over here, and you just know that the two things are going to end up together. So story-wise, plot-wise, I thought it was very good. It kept me interested at least. It certainly didn't have me nodding off at any points. Although the film kind of drags in places, there's a lot of talk, a lot of dialogue, and it does kind of drag down a little bit in places. I was still intrigued, I was still awake enough to be interested and invested in the story, to find out where it was going and to find out where it would end up, of course. Performances were great all round. Again, Taser Farmiga, great as Sister Irene, vastly improved from the last film. Although she didn't do bad in the last film, she's a much stronger character in this film. We feel stronger and more invested in her in this movie. She's got this little sidekick called Deborah, played by Storm Reed, and she's very good as well. She's kind of a little bit of comic relief. She's a little bit rebellious and everything, so she kind of takes the pressure off, but she really knuckles down and helps when our Sister Irene needs the help. And of course they've all got to face the demon again. The one thing I will say, again, Barney Arans is back as the nun, or as Valak, and she is once again fantastic. She really brings real menace to the screen. However, I will say I was disappointed to find out that she's not actually in the film a great deal. She kind of turns up at the end, kind of like the end battle monster in a video game kind of thing. There's flashes of her throughout the film. You see like little moments of her here and there, but not a strong enough presence to kind of sustain the film overhaul. And yeah, she kind of turns up at the end for a final battle, and once again she's vanquished again. It's not a spoiler alert because you know that's what's going to happen. And you know, she's just somehow going to turn up again for another Conjuring stroke Nun 3 movie, I guess. Special effects were great, visual effects were great, suspense was greatly built. As I said, all the great characters and everything like that. It's an entertaining film. I thought it was a vast improvement upon the last Nun movie. Do I recommend you go and see this one at the cinema? Yeah, possibly if you want to. You know, I recommend going to see all horror films at the cinema where you can. However, the one thing I will say, I was disappointed in, I don't know if it's our cinema or all cinemas, maybe you can let me know down in the comments. But some of the shots in the film are very, very dark. You cannot see what is going on. There's moments where they're going to do something and it's just like this brown, murky kind of darkness with no definition or any lighting whatsoever. Hollywood, I don't know what you're doing, but you really need to hire lighting directors. I know you've got strikes on here and there. Maybe you need to hire some lighting directors as well to boost your movies. Even though it's a horror movie, I know it takes place in the dark. Horror movies, that's where they happen. But yeah, you just cannot see what's going on, and I really would like to see what's going on. You spent the money on the effects, you spent the money on the sets, on the costumes. Let's see what you spent the money on. You know, don't keep hiding things in the dark because it just ruins movies. This goes for other movies as well. I've mentioned Solo, the Star Wars movie as well. Very, very dark in places. You just can't see what's going on in those tunnels. Why are you doing that? Put some money into the lighting. You know, show us what you're wanting to show us. But yeah, I think the Nun II was an entertaining enough movie. It's not the greatest movie. It's still one of the weakest movies in the Conjuring franchise, if you like, or the Conjuring universe. I do think they need to step up again come a third movie. I'd like to see Valak kind of move out, because I mean the movie is very similar to the first Nun movie, where it kind of comes along, the Nun has to vanquish it, and then we move on. So it's treading the same boards as the first Nun movie did. However, so I think in the third movie, I'd like to see the nun become something like a Freddy Krueger type character, something that appears in people's visions or appears in their dreams, and they don't know how to deal with it. I think you also need to move out. This was like 1956, just after the war. You've got this monastery and everything. Everything's a little bit dated. I think you kind of need to step up a little bit into the modern Conjuring universe, Conjuring era. Maybe the 60s, 70s and things like that, and bring the nun, bring Valak forward now. We've had two movies where we're set in the past. Let's bring her forward like she was in the Nun, the Conjuring 2, and let's have more of her in that way. I think if you could make her into kind of like a Freddy Krueger type character that could get into people's visions, get into people's minds and explore it, that would be absolutely fantastic. I think you've got a really good character there, but it's underused. So yeah, let's have something like that for the Conjuring 3 or for the Nun 3. So come on, writers, get your acts together. Let's have the Nun as something more of a Nightmare on Elm Street Freddy Krueger type character. But yeah, sorry, I keep saying the Conjuring, I'm getting confused. The Nun 2 was enjoyable enough for me. I enjoyed the plot, kept me interested all the way through. As I say, if you want to go and see this one at the cinema, it's not going to be on very long, but yeah, go and see it at the cinema. I think you'll enjoy it. If you want to wait for it to come out on disc, that's fine too. Like I say, it's one of the weakest ones in the Conjuring universe still. Although it's an improvement upon Nun 1, it's still one of the weakest ones in the Conjuring universe. But, you know, if you want to go and see it at the cinema, make sure you find a cinema that projects it nice and bright so that you can see those dark moments. But that's all I've got for you today. That is the Nun 2. Yeah, it's like I say, see it at the cinema. What would I give it out of 10? I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10 because it is. I always say like a 6 out of 10 is just above average, and that's what I would say for the first Nun. I'd say probably the first Nun was probably a 6 out of 10. So this one's an improvement upon that. So I would say this one's a 7 out of 10. Like I say, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story, enjoyed the acting, enjoyed the visual effects when I could see them, and I enjoyed the Nun characters. So hopefully they'll bring her back in a better, stronger film for the third entry. Yeah, 7 out of 10, and please go and see this one in the cinema if you get the opportunity. I think it's probably going to be on for the next week or so, and then in a couple of weeks' time we've got Saw X coming up for the horror movies, if you like, and obviously Exorcist. I think the first one's called Believer. The Exorcist trilogy. Those two movies are coming up soon as well. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that advises you if you want to go and see the Nun 2 or not. If you've enjoyed this video, as usual, please click on that. The thumbs up button doesn't cost you a penny. Really does help the channel out. I know there's the old thumb bandits. We mention them every week. You know the thumb bandits who like to click on it that way up because they can't tell which way up it's supposed to be. I know. This way up is the way it's supposed to be, so if you click on it that way up, fantastic. If you're brand new to the channel and have enjoyed this review, thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe. It doesn't cost you a penny. There's loads of different videos on this channel now. We've got over 100. There's some travel ones, there's some ones with dinosaurs, there's some ones with film reviews, there's ones with locations, loads of different things, loads of new stuff coming up as well. I've got some good ideas which I'm not going to put on you just yet. I'm going to go out and film them first, and then we'll do a little trailer hopefully, and you can see what's going on. And yeah, come and have a chat with me down in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the previous Nun movies, what your favourite Conjuring movie is, if you're a fan of the Conjuring universe, and what you expect from the Conjuring universe in the future. I will just say also, at the end of the Nun 2, there's a mid-credit sequence, one of those little cutscenes. There's like a little mid-credit sequence in there. Stick around for that. I don't think there's anything at the very, very end because I didn't stick around that long. But yeah, there's definitely a mid-credit sequence. So it's a little tiny bit. Kind of just hints at what the next movie or what the next path might be, and then you can leave the cinema. Okay, thank you once again for watching. I will see you all again very soon.